Hello everyone, it's Micah. Welcome to the latest edition in our Monday reaction series. We have made it back to 2015 and the number one song of that year, which was Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars with Uptown Funk. This is an iconic record. It's stood the test of time. It stood the test of 8-9 years, it's much more prominent to me in pop culture than some of the songs that have been released in the intervening years. It's lingered around and had a real cultural impact that's sustained, which is kind of a nice way of saying that it's had the Dickens played out of it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are tired of this song by now. But it has 5.1 billion views on YouTube. It was the number one song of 2015. It's an undeniable slab of pop funk music, and I'm going to react to it as if I haven't heard it before. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to just listen to it one more time and try to keep up and let you know what my thoughts are at this point, as we probably both or all of us collectively listen to it for the millionth time. This is Uptown Funk. Let's get into it. I am good at following instructions. We will stop it there. Some observations listening to the first verse for the millionth time in the opening of the song. This is one of those generational bops. This is one of those records that I know where I was when I heard it for the first time. I was wondering if maybe it was just me that was hearing how completely iconic and different and great this song was the first time it came out. But within a couple of weeks, I figured out that everyone was kind of on the same bandwagon. The only other song I can really compare this to is No Diggity by Blackstreet. It's another funk-based song, but both of these songs have such a clear focus and such a crisp production and arrangement, and such a very fully realized intent, that they were just undeniable hit songs from the moment that they were released. This is one of those songs where, even if you're a little tired of it now, and I understand if that's your reaction to it, but it's one of those songs where you almost don't understand how music existed without it. Like, why did something this organic sounding never happen before 2015? Or the same thing with No Diggity. How is this song just now coming into existence? That's what I appreciate about the record. Of course, it's funky. It's definitely got pop appeal on top of that, and the video is a lot of fun. And I will say that also, this is an unusually structured song in that there's almost no chorus. The "Don't Believe Me, Just Watch" is something that comes from the pre-chorus and is just repeated. And the chorus itself, at least the way I hear it, the chorus itself is basically the instrumental that runs after the pre-chorus. It's almost like the song got so overheated and built up so much momentum that they kind of had to pull back on it and not even do a formal chorus for the song, because the song was running on fumes and almost running too hot for them to actually add a chorus to take it to yet another level. It's almost like the song needed to cool off a bit before they could so that it wouldn't go out of control. That's my mental rationale for how they arranged the song. But let's get back into the second verse. Bruno Mars for a second. Bruno Mars brings not only humor and attitude to the song, but he brings talent and some real vocal ability. He definitely does a Morris Day style take with the bragging and the strutting and the posturing, but he adds a level of vocal interest that is that's unique to this song, and something that I think is a huge part of the appeal of the song. And of course, the all of the situations in the video, he in all of these scenes, he hams it up to the utmost extreme. Bruno Mars is a really funny guy, and I didn't even realize how naturally funny he was until I watched him host Saturday Night Live a few years back. When I watched that episode, I was like, this man needs to get a variety show. He's hysterical. He's really funny. But this is, and also I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was where Bruno's career sort of started on the R&B, an explicitly R&B trajectory. And so, given the success of the song, heck, I would have followed that and saw where it went as well. And it served him pretty well for the most part. And I'm interested to see where he's going to go next. If he's going to go back and do some more solo work after his Silk Sonic work. But I think this song was the catalyst for him going in that direction. And it's a really good vocal performance on his part. Let's get back. That's pretty close to being a song that you just can't get tired of. However, 5.1 billion views and 8 to 9 years later, I will say that it has come pretty close to wearing out its welcome. It's an astoundingly good song, but it has been played a lot. But I still remember the first time I heard it. I know exactly where I was and thinking, wow, this is the best thing I've heard in a really long time. And I still hear that in the song, even though it's really familiar to me at this point. It's a great record. I will say that I do not know a lot about Mark Ronson. What I do know about him is that he produced for Amy Winehouse, and I assume with his name on the record that he had some that he at least produced this record and probably had a lot to do with the arrangement and maybe even some of the instrumentation in it. I don't know to what extent this was a collaboration with Bruno Mars from a creation standpoint. Obviously, Bruno Mars did the vocals on it, but I wonder how much. As big as this song is, I don't really know a lot about the background of how the song came about, how they ended up recording it, how much input Bruno Mars had versus Mark Ronson. That's something that you could definitely tell me more about in the comments. I know how the song sounds, and it for me it really calls to mind the Minneapolis sound. It calls to mind the time, and it calls to mind some of the 70s funk that informed the music that was informing the Minneapolis sound in the 80s. Everything comes from somewhere, and people who are familiar with other types of music will probably latch on to, or earlier iterations of funk or soul music will probably latch on to the parts of the song that remind them of the music that's their musical home base. And so I think I've been involved in some pretty robust discussions about what this song exactly qualifies as a throwback to. I personally, being a Janet Jackson fan, I personally wanted Janet to appear on a remix of the song. I thought that it worked really well with her Control era sound, with that early Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis production style that in some ways piggybacked off of the music that they did with the time. And I know that there's a mutual respect between Bruno Mars and Janet Jackson. Well, with Bruno, he's more of a fanboy, but I know that Janet really loves Bruno Mars music, so I thought maybe there was a possibility that he would rope her in, and maybe she could cash in a little bit on this on Bruno's equity, and maybe it would revitalize her career. That was one of my hopes at the time, but it didn't pan out. but it just goes to show, like, wherever you are in music, you're going to pull the thing that you're familiar with that draws you to a particular song. And so then that's part of how and why we all hear music differently. Next week we'll be going to 2014 and talking about the number one song from that year. I'll be reacting to oh wow, speaking of songs that that were overplayed, in 2014 the number one song of the year was Happy by Pharrell. That's one song that I know some people hope they never hear again. But we're going to try to listen to it with fresh ears next week. Join me next Monday when we look at and react to that song. Until then, please like this video if you indeed liked it. Please subscribe to the channel if you feel so inclined. And please continue to help me to make music